try to have an hour here together where we can make some further progress. As you know, if you're a frequent listener, this is a call in program. Let me give you the number if you want to be part of the show. And I encourage you to do that. I love talking to you guys. 844 940 2774. 844 940 2774. 844 940 2774 to be on the program and visit with me. We have, we got some pretty cool stuff going on for those of you who haven't tuned in a while. We have an event coming up on December 9th, a 2-hour live event right here, you and me, live just like this, on overcoming anxiety. So if you have any form of anxiety, some people experience anxiety as worry and obsession. Some people experience as just feeling stressed all the time. Some people experience as just a general feeling of uneasiness or a foreboding of, negative things and something's going to happen or hypervigilance. And some people have specific anxieties like fear of flying or, fear of leaving the house or fear of confrontation even. Anxiety can show itself in so many different forms, but the common thing about all of them is anxiety limits our life. There's almost a formula you could say that the bigger fear is in our life, the smaller our life is. But here's the good news. There's a lot we know about how to get over anxiety. And in so many ways and in so many situations, so many cases, you don't have to live with this. So join me that day, December 9th. And if you can't be there live, if you sign up for the live event, you'll be able also, everybody will be able to stream it afterwards. And so doesn't matter if you can be there or not, but it'll be more fun live, I think, if you can, because we'll have some interactive time of some sort. Okay, so here's how you sign up. Go to boundaries.me/anxiety. And in general, go to boundaries.me and become a subscriber. So all you got to do is go to that website, go to boundaries.me, and you'll see all the sign-in information. You can become a subscriber, be part of our community. All righty. So we are going to begin with our email question for the day from our boundaries.me subscribers. This one is one that I think, various people can identify with it in some form or fashion. And it goes like this. Hello, Dr. Cloud. My adult children have told me that I should be okay. Now, I don't even have to read the rest of this thing. When somebody says, you should be okay, and I'm not okay, well, that's sort of like when you call the helpline, your computer's not working, and say, my computer's not working, and the person at the help desk goes, well, here's what I want you to do, hit that button, turn it on. Yeah, I turned it on. Okay, well, open up this application. Yeah, I did that. And okay, now type something. And they go, is it working? And I say, no, it's not working. They go, well, it should work. And well, that doesn't help me. All right. Telling me I should be okay when I'm not the best way to start a conversation. So be careful about doing that to other people. Okay, but I should be okay about being around my ex-husband now that there is a grandchild on the way. I guess the presence of the grandchild is going to cure me of not being okay around my ex-husband. There's an assumption. Okay, so but I do, on the other side of this, I do empathize with the kids. They do kind of want the grandchild to have the extended family there. Everybody's got a stake in this. So the ex was psychologically and verbally abusive, and there's been no sign of his changing his attitude or beliefs about me. Of course, I can be friendly and civil when I have to be, when I've had to be, such as weddings, etc. Well, is it hard to be friendly and civil when you don't have to be? That's the first thing I would want to ask myself. However, I believe that it's unhelpful to me to choose to spend any more of my time around him than that. I realize this has implications for my family. Do you have any feedback on this or how to have that conversation with my children? Well, first of all, I do empathize with you. When you've had so much pain with somebody and you, it sounds like you don't have any reason to believe that there's been any change on their part. Voluntarily walking into situations where that person's going to be there is probably not top of your list on things you want to do. I would give you, I don't know you and I don't know him. So it's difficult to say, here's what, I think would be good. But I'm going to give you just some thoughts around this because it could be any number of these. Um, First of all, I would try to take this out of the subjective experience of, oh crap, being around him and all that just starts up inside, because that subjective experience of being around him equals danger and pain and all of that, that can globalize. And what that can do is it can kind of get us out of limiting the effect that somebody can have when we do make it objective and limited. For example, being around him, well, that means you got to live with him for the rest of your life, or you have a 1 hour birthday party of the grandchild. Now, so what I really want you to begin to think about is maybe this isn't an either or, all or nothing situation, but maybe this is where you use your good cognitive capacities of containing it to the reality of what it actually is. Okay. Now, if they're saying, for example, a birthday party, okay, they want you both to come. Well, can you get into your head for transcendent reasons, transcendent meaning a larger, bigger purpose of your grandchild growing up and in their background objects of the world, knowing that, they've got this extended family, right? There's two grandparents and that both of them were there. So can I get in that mindset and then really think about, okay, well, I guess, an hour. I don't really have to, rehash our life with him and this, that, and the other. And the more you can make it objective and the more you can kind of sort of psychologically limit the effect that he's going to have based on that objective analysis, then it opens you up to a lot of possibilities. So one of the conversations I would want to have with your children is to say something like, well, I certainly want to do things that are good. I want to do things that are good for my grandchild. And if it's good to have an extended family around, then I'm definitely open to doing that. But here's what I would like to do. I'd like to do it, kind of make the decision on an objective individual case by case basis. Like, having a birthday party is different than going, oh, the extended family is going to go on vacation for 2 weeks at the beach, and we're all going to stay in one Airbnb. Well, no, I don't think so. Not on that one. But I would go to them and say, I love you. I love the grandchild. Let's just take this on a case by case basis. And I just need to determine how much of it, there's a couple of criteria here. How much interaction I'm really going to have, what the kind of interaction it is that I'm going to have with him. But secondly, and this is the most important thing, how vulnerable and public am I making myself in this individual instance to getting into some weirdness with him? Now, if we can limit and contain all of those, then the possibilities become way more than if you just said a rule, either or, all or nothing. Okay. So I would just kind of want the nature of it. Now, the second thing is this. Um, I think it might be just in the way that, let's pretend your kids were not older and married now. Let's pretend they're 12 years old. Well, when people divorce, they still have a relationship as co parents. And what's the healthiest thing to do is that they have a co parenting agreement. Like, this is how we're going to do this. And so, if possible, and maybe with a third party, I don't know, if possible, you may want to talk with him. The kids have asked that there be times when we both come and do this. Like to know your thoughts about that. Like to know how we can do that in a way that we don't get into our stuff and we don't hurt each other, but we can rise above us and be above them or above that and be there for them, and maybe have that conversation and set some ground rules. And then the third thing is, just third thing, I don't know how many things I've said, but another thing is to say to your kids, even when I say yes, there may be moments in there where I just, for whatever reason, I have to kind of pull the plug. And if you can accept that, then I'll try. A lot of different ways to have it like this. Okay. Um, a further thing that I would look at in here, though, and this is sort of, I'm going to almost say the opposite of everything I just said. There are situations, I don't know what you went through. Okay. I know I have talked to people that say similar things. And on one side of the spectrum, they were so hurt, so abused, so wounded that just to be around the person triggers PTSD that is real. I mean, that is a diagnosable, like real problem. And we do everything we can in some instances to kind of, sort of quarantine that and not, in the beginning when if a war vet is overcoming PTSD, you know, in in the beginning, you don't send them to a war movie, right? They're going to get flooded and it's going to be too much. They might even go psychotic, not even know where they are. So if you are that wounded by your ex and you're that kind of vulnerability, hopefully if you're in that situation, you have a counselor and y'all can talk about, but I would not want you exposed to things that would truly create injurious psychological consequences. All right. That's one end of when I've heard things like this, one group of people kind of sort of that applies to, and it's real. And that's where you have to say, I just can't do this. On the other hand, this is where I don't know you, so you have to have some self-reflection here. I have heard other people say, I can't be around that person. And it's kind of a stance that is, it's just a stance that, with a little effort for a higher reason for them, it's really not true. You could be. You could be with some internal adjustments. And it's partly kind of not finished with the relationship, partly still stuck in the anger of it, all of that. And they're really not at danger. They're just not done with the conflict. So I'm not judging you here. That I don't know where you fall on the spectrum, but it's very possible you can't be around him. And I would respect that. Okay. It's also very possible that sometimes maybe it's possible in time to entertain the idea of maybe I could do this. Maybe this is even a growth step for me. Maybe this is a way of regaining my power that I always gave him to limit my life. And maybe this is a growth step of, you know what, I'm not going to let him have that much power to where I can't be around my grandkids. So I don't know where you are on the spectrum, but those are the kinds of things that I would be thinking about. Another very powerful one is take a wingman, okay? Somebody, a friend that's been very helpful in your recovery or somebody from your divorce recovery group or whatever. Take them to the party with you. Just that psychological safety. It's like a kid having their bank key, right? And, I got my buddy here, like a Navy SEAL has a buddy, right? Everybody. So you might want to take somebody in the situation with you because we know that can really, really help. All righty, that's just some thoughts. Tough situation. Okay, second question, and then we'll go to the phone calls. By the way, the number is 844-940-2774. And here's another one before we go to the phone calls. Can you give an example of hard on the issue and soft on the person? This is a phrase that um, I actually think I first heard this phrase. I think it was from my father-in-law, who's a very what's the right word? Very, very fruitful, very productive, very, uh, very good leader of people. He ran a big company and did a lot of things in leadership. And obviously, in a business, the scope of his, he had many difficult conversations, many things you have to confront when you're operating as a CEO of a big company. And we were talking about this one day, and he said, "Well, I always try to go hard on the issue and soft on the person." Now, great saying. There are a thousand ways to say this. I like the way the Bible says it in one of my favorite verses. It says, "Speak the truth in love." Another one of my favorite verses, and this kind of illustrates it really well, in the first chapter of John, it says that the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth, notice those two words, grace and truth, were realized by Jesus Christ. So let's compare those two things. The law was given by Moses. So what did Moses do? Whether you're a person of faith or not, you can identify with the concepts here. Moses came off the hill and he said, "Here's the rules, guys. Don't do this and don't do that and don't do that and don't do that. And if you do, you might be stoned." Right? Okay. That's hard on the issue and pretty hard on the person. Right? There's no grace there. Now, it says that then Jesus showed up. And what did he do? Let's just take a stoning example. One day, and I want you to picture this in your town. Let's get this out of, storyland. Uh, I mean, it really happened, but let's get it, sometimes we read this stuff and we forget, wow, this really happened, right? Let's say you're at a church gathering, okay? And there's a there's a few of the pastors and church leaders, and they drag a woman into the gathering and they say, "We just caught this woman back in a back room having adulterous sex with the guy in the choir." Now think about this. That's what happened in the story. And they said to Jesus, they said, you know, the law says she's got to be stoned. What do you say? He said, "Well, then let any of you who's without sin, you cast the first stone. If you want to judge her in that way, then you better be equal to the task of judging, which means you better be innocent of everything." That's who gets to judge. Parentheses, that would be God. The rest of us can't, right? So what he did was he gave her grace. Okay. He gave her grace. But then in situations like that, he would also turn and say, "Now leave your life of sin. Don't do this anymore." Okay. Said that to another one. Grace and truth. So I'm not going to do what the law does. I'm not going to beat you up and get angry and shamey and "I can't believe you did this. What do that's speaking the truth. That's going hard on the issue, but it's not going soft on the person. And what he modeled for us is, he would say, "Look, this is destructive. Go leave your life of sin. Turn around. Don't do this anymore." That's hard on the issue. All hard on the issue means is I'm not giving in on this. Okay. I'm serious about this. But I can say it in a way where I care about the person and I'm wanting the best for them when I go hard on the issue. So, for example, what do you see in marriages? Let's say there's an addict You see screaming and fights, and I can't believe you're doing this, and you're so, you're such an addict, or financial, you're so irresponsible. I, I can't depend on you for anything, and all this judgmental stuff that never helps. In fact, Gottman says that when couples judge each other, that critical spirit, that's one of the guaranteed indicators that they'll be divorced within 7 years, 93% of the time. Okay. But you take that same couple and you get a skilled interventionist and you do an intervention with the addict, and everybody's been trained. Look, don't yell at him. Don't call him this and call him that and call him that. Just share the truth and say, you know what, we're for you here and we want you to get sober. But here's the truth, the hard truth about what your addiction has done to me. These are the ways it's hurt me. And it's really, really destructive. Okay. I can go hard on the issue. I mean, all hard means is I'm not going to mince the truth. This is really hurting me, what you're doing. And I love you and I want a relationship with you and I'll even help you, but I don't want you to do it anymore. See, immovable on the truth, but actually soft and for the person. That's when grace and truth come together. And that's when we grow. All righty. Hope that helps. A lot in boundaries.me about that. Go sign up for boundaries.me and you can, there's a lot of stuff that integrates how we have difficult conversations and deal with things like that. 844-940-2774 is our number. Let's go to talk to Tracy, who's calling us from Texas. Tracy, welcome to the program.
Hi, Dr. Cloud.
Yes, ma'am.
I am super excited and a little nervous to be talking to you.
Well, I am super excited and extremely nervous to be talking to you. It's freaking me out. I don't even know if I can deal with it.
Okay, well, I feel better then.
See, we already helped. I feel better too. You helped me. There you go. So tell me why you call. Tell me why you call. And what part of Texas are you calling from?
So I live in the DFW Metroplex area.
Oh yeah, I'm there frequently, actually. Well, non-COVID times, I'm there frequently. So how can I help you?
Okay, so I am single. I'm 40 years old. I am in my second year of grad school to earn my license for marriage and family therapy. So
well, congratulations.
I feel like I should know this. Well, thank you. I only say that because I feel like I should at least have a better grasp on this by now. Like I have the knowledge, I just am struggling to apply the knowledge.
Explain the word should to me.
Well, so in my mind, I think that if you know something, then you know, like I know what like, okay, so I struggle with like anxious thoughts. So I know that when I'm feeling triggered, when those thoughts come to mind, that I need to like take a deep breath and tell myself, like not analyze, but just like recognize, is this truth? Is this just my emotions lying to me? What's really going on here? So that way I can calm myself down. But I have such a hard time actually applying this stuff. So I feel like because I know this, I should be able to apply it.
You mean you have a hard time applying it in actually doing it, or you do it and you find that it doesn't help?
Okay, so I would say a little bit of both, and the more that I know, I feel like it doesn't help me. So I'm not sure I feel like there's something wrong with me to that extent then, because I don't know how to fix me. So how am I supposed to help other people if I can't help myself?
Well, if somebody can help themselves, why would you be needed to help other people?
Well, so I've seen counselors, and I have abandonment issues that I've seen counselors try to help.
Hold on a second. No, I want you to answer that question. You said, how could I expect myself to help other people if I can't help myself? That makes no sense, right? Because if somebody could help themselves, then the other people could help themselves too. They wouldn't need you. I'm
Oh,
just,
okay. Okay.
you get it?
I see what you're
Like
saying. Yeah.
maybe the same reason that other people need some help, you might need some help with this too.
Yes. Yes, that does
I,
make sense.
I'm
Hence
not a
my phone
big,
call
I
to you, sir.
am not a big believer in self-help.
Okay. That does
It's
make me
the
feel better.
dumbest idea. Dumbest idea. Look, if I'm the person that needs help and I'm also the answer, then I'm two people. Well, I don't think so. Either I got a problem and I need help,
Right.
I'm able to do it and I don't need any help. So maybe you need some help. So I'll be glad to help you. So tell me specifically, give me an example of when this happens, what it's about, and what you specifically do to try to help yourself that doesn't help.
Well, so mostly it's in the area of relationships. So my abandonment issues have more or less you would describe them as having like the anxious attachment style. And so I either when I'm dating, I either like push someone away or I'm like too attached too quickly. And I recognize when I'm doing it, I just don't know how to stop myself. I don't know how to change that behavior, I suppose, or the mindset that's that's sort of triggering the behavior, I guess.
Well, sort of. What do you try to do when you say you don't know how to stop yourself? What do you try to do?
Um, so, well, either I will completely just like shut down and not deal with that. So, like, I'll just walk away from the situation and the person just so I don't have to deal with it because I don't know how to. Or, I'm seeking like validation and reassurance from this person, and really like there's no, they can't give it to me, and I know that, but like I like my feeling like I don't know how to like
Well,
calm myself down to
what do
make
you what
myself
do you
okay
mean?
with it.
What do you mean? What do you mean they can't give it to you? So if I'm in a relationship with somebody and let's say you're dating, you're what, several months into this by the time it gets to this level? I hope it's not the first
No,
date.
it's like within the first month, I would say.
Within the first month. So you're wanting somebody. Yeah, I don't think anybody can say to you if they can after a month, "I'll never leave you." Then you're probably not dating the right person, right?
Right.
Because they
Well, that's way too like I know I understand that that's
okay,
not that's just not healthy. That's not reality. I just I
right.
don't know why I'm still doing it.
Well, okay. Um, if you've read the stuff, it sounds like you have about attachment styles. You know that
Mhm.
attachment is not a cognitive process by itself.
Okay.
Attachment. I'm gonna give you a little, give everybody a little sort of, sort of overview of this. I would think you would
Uh-huh.
know this, but maybe you don't. So, and here's the problem with a lot of self-help and a lot of what's floating around out there, in the sort of like your thinking drives all your behavior. Well, that's just wrong. It doesn't drive all of your behavior. A lot of times emotional states drive our thinking. I mean,
Okay.
it's not that simple. If you look at a baby, a baby has a primary process, primary meaning first and foundational. The primary process is attachment.
Mhm.
Okay. When a baby is securely attached, in about somewhere in the second year, guess what starts to kick in? Something we call thinking.
Okay.
So, thinking is a secondary process that sits on top of the primary process of attachment.
Okay.
Attachment basically comes and is built from a position of vulnerability of needing someone, okay, and then investing in them, and then they're responding to the need and transforming our needy state to a content, fulfilled state, and that happening 6 billion times. And then we have a secure knitting together of the two hearts, and we call ourselves emotionally attached to someone. All right. See,
Mm-hmm.
that's an emotional process. Now, right now, you're 40 years old. You're not 6 months old. So
Right.
you're right in that you also have the capacity to think, and you do have the capacity to modulate some of your emotional reactions and all of this with thinking. For example, if all of a sudden I live in California, it's very possible any minute now you could see this whole house start shaking, and I would
Mm-hmm.
go, crap, we're having an earthquake, right? And I would be animated, right, for a second, and
Mm-hmm.
then every time I've ever been through one, which is a gazillion because I've lived here so long, after however long, then it kind of stops. And I tell myself, oh, earthquake's past. I go back to what I was doing. So my thinking was able to change my perception of the reality that I'm really in, and I calm down. All right.
Okay. Yes.
Well, what if the earthquake is bigger than my thinking? See, if we're in an earthquake that lasts for a day, and I'm sitting here thinking and I'm telling myself it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay, it's gonna be okay. It's not okay, right? It's
Right.
not okay. Now, there's some problems in that analogy, but here's what I would tell you, that there is a thinking component. You do have to, in this situation, you've got to right size dating, first of all, especially in the first month. And you've got to
Mm-hmm.
tell yourself and remind yourself, this is not my life reserver for life, this person. My emotional security is not dependent on this person. Okay. Whether they reject me or
Uh-huh.
not is not, doesn't have any meaning on whether I'm ever going to be able to find anybody or not. All of those kinds of things. And you can do some kind of self talk and cognitive kind of interventions on yourself that can help. But you've still got the earthquake to deal with in your limbic system.
Yeah,
Okay.
like right now, just talking to you, I feel like I want to cry, which is ridiculous.
I don't understand why it's ridiculous. Why do you want to cry? I think you want to cry because you're probably feeling a little bit understood.
I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure, but this is like what I mean. So I don't like. I have the information that you're telling me makes perfect sense, and yet I feel like I want to cry about it. Like that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, hold on a second. The only way you can cry is because it makes sense. We don't cry for no reason. What did I just tell you? What I just told you was your earthquake may be bigger than your cognitive abilities to talk you out of it in that moment. That's what I said, right?
Okay. Yes.
So, what did I just do? I validated your need,
Yes.
right?
Yes, which is what I'm looking for in my relationship in a very unhealthy way.
No,
So,
hang on, hang on.
okay.
You're not going to make this need go away by saying it's ridiculous or unhealthy. Those are the two things I've heard you call it.
Okay.
When I acknowledge it and I speak to it, what you see is it emerges, right?
Yes.
Now, I don't know if this is enough, I don't know, time or experience of this, but for me to say that need is real and that's okay, do you feel yourself kind of like calm down just a little bit?
Yes, I do actually.
Okay. Look what just happened. We created just a little space, and this isn't even, this is nothing. We're talking over the internet for 5 seconds, and you barely even know
Right.
me and me you. But we just create a little bit of a space for you to, instead of judging your need, for you to embrace your need, instead of you talking yourself out of it, for you to bring it into a relationship. I validated it instead of invalidating it like you've been doing. And when you experience that, you begin to calm down,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
Okay. You feel better now, right?
Yes. So
Okay,
in our
stop. Before
two,
before you
okay.
start to devalue it, don't go down that devaluing trail with me. Okay. I want you to
Okay.
value your need. And
Okay.
here's what I want you to do. You're going to exist in two worlds for a little while. I want you
Okay.
to, do you have a therapist?
Yes, I do.
Why'd you hesitate?
Um, well, because I mean, I have one. I just,
Had or have?
no, I have one. I haven't seen her in a couple months because the whole COVID stuff, but
Okay.
I
So,
had one for 2 years, and I saw that therapist like every week. So,
okay. Did you get into 1,000 moments like we just experienced here, where your vulnerability and your need was expressed and comforted, identified with, sat with, modulated, all those things?
no. So when I would have these moments in therapy sessions, um, the counselor would just kind of sit there and like not know what to do with it. So then I felt like I had to figure out what to do with it for them.
Okay. Well, I wasn't there. I don't know. I don't know what happened. But what I do know
Sure.
is that when you have these vulnerabilities that are unfinished from obviously your developmental years, they can be healed with somebody that understands them.
Okay.
Because what I want you to do is I want you to get in a safe setting with your maybe your current therapist, maybe a good group or whatever, and you can stop talking yourself out of your vulnerability, but you can express your vulnerability and somebody can be there with you and understand it. And remember what I said a little while ago, after 6 trillion times of that, what does a baby do? Well, the baby in you is going to learn, wow, I'm not alone in the universe. I'm not going to
Okay.
be left when I'm needy. And you're going to develop emotional security because you have people in your life that are there and are constant. And then when you go out and date, you're going to date because that person's just another person that you've known for a month. And
Right.
so
Okay.
you're not going to heal this in dating. You're going to heal it in a therapeutic relationship and some
Okay.
relationship with people that you can be vulnerable with instead of trying to talk yourself out of it. Now, at the same time, I said, I value the cognitive interventions and you got to talk yourself out of it. When you're dating, say, well, this is just a date. It's not a big deal. I'm going to sit here and smile, even though I don't feel like it. But I'm going to run back to my therapy group and tell them about this. And then I'm going to cry and they're going to hold my hand and I'm going to get better. So, yes, you want to give
Okay.
yourself the self talk, but you want to have a place where this is healed. Okay. I hope
Okay.
that's helpful. Hope that's helpful to you.
It was. It was. It was very much
All
so.
right.
Thank you.
And watch for the ways that you do a bunch of shoulding on yourself. I should be over this. I shouldn't feel this way. I should. I shouldn't be crying now. It's ridiculous. Don't do that. Validate your experience and then give it a place to be healed. And then it can be healed. It's nothing's going to be healed that shouldn't be there. You follow me? Did I lose you?
A lot of sense. I
Okay.
think I'm still there. I'm sorry. I'm taking it for the
Okay.
whole show. I apologize. That does make a lot
No,
of sense. Thank you so very much.
stop apologizing. I enjoyed it. I'm sure other people did
Okay.
too.
Thank you.
Go on Facebook and people will tell you that they learned something from you today. Okay. All right. Let's let's go back to the calls. I'm going to do something here, and I just got a signal that my earpiece doesn't like how long I've been on it today. So it wants me to switch. Okay. Can you guys still hear me? Albie, can you guys hear me?
Loud and clear, man.
Okay, great. Got it. All righty. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Peyton, who is calling us from one of my favorite towns, Nashburg, Tennessee. Peyton, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you so much. It's so great to be able to actually talk to you. I've been following you for about a year now with all your stuff, and it's just kind of great to be able to talk to you.
Oh, I'm glad you called. I love your town. I got a daughter that goes to college there. Yeah, so I get to go there.
Okay, great.
And my good buddy Dave Ramsey and a bunch of other people live there. So good place. How can I help you?
Hi, yeah, so I guess maybe I just had like more of a general question. I have OCD, more specifically, like scrupulosity, like religious OCD. So I have intrusive thoughts that are obsessed with religious content, and I do identify as a Christian. And so I guess I was just trying to see is I wanted some more like biblical godly advice on how to just deal with this disorder. I have a therapist that treats OCD, but she's not a bad person, but I wouldn't really say she's a believer. And so sometimes I miss that like spiritual aspect of like what I can do. It's like I feel like it's a little complicated. I guess I'm just trying to ask, like, how do I not let my OCD and my intrusive thoughts get in the way of like my faith? Because sometimes I feel like they get so like intertwined. I get so overwhelmed that I just
well, it's not unusual for the entire OCD to have kind of a faith railroad tracks that it can run down, because typically, are you talking about what kind of OCD thoughts do you have? When you say intrusive thoughts, what do you mean? Do you mean ruminations? Do you mean ego alien thoughts? What do you mean when you say?
So it's more of like this general. So like the general theme is to like just everything is either bad or good. Everything is either a sin or not a sin, or like this over sense of responsibility. It's just kind of like this, like I have to work to earn.
Let's get specific about it. Give me an example.
I guess like ever since I was little, like I've always obsessed that like I'm going to hell no matter what I do. And so I just kind of get a lot of, specifically it's like things with like I guess just like today, like everything is very liberal and like secular, and it's just kind of where I think like if I go into a building or like I work for a place that's like more liberal, for example, like I'm a teacher and I work for like the public school system, it's just very liberal. And so I think like, oh, if I work here, that means I'm supporting that, and like then it's bad and God's mad at me and I'm going to hell. And like it's, in the instance, it's really not like a real problem. I guess, you know, like nobody died or I did, you know,
well,
but it's
you get accused for everything internally.
Yeah, and I just
so what have you done in therapy? You know, how are you dealing with this OCD in therapy?
So usually how they treat OCD is like they do EPR, like exposures. So the point is to like gradually do things that entice your anxiety, that like kind of and make you sit in it. Yeah. And so
have you been doing that?
I have. And it's gotten a lot better compared to how it was a couple of years ago. But some of the things I think that are in therapy, like I get conflicted with like my spirituality. Like, is this something really I should be doing? So like the way I was thinking of like when I first started going, I was just so focused on getting better. I tried anything. And so it was just kind of like,
well, if you're asking,
I did some disrespectful things.
It's what?
I guess like this one thing I did in therapy, it was like, so how they treat the disorder is to like entice the anxiety. So I would write like bad words in the Bible, or I would drop it on the floor, and like it hurts me to do that stuff. I guess I didn't do it a
I'm
lot.
sorry, I couldn't quite understand. You say you
Oh,
would
I'm
write
sorry.
where you would write bad words?
Yeah, like in the Bible, because it was like
Did
a
you say
way to like
in?
entice my
Did you
like
say
I would
it?
have
Hold on a second. I need to ask you a question. You would write them in the Bible? Is that what you said?
yes, yeah,
So on the
um,
pages of the Bible, you would write bad words.
yeah, like curse words, and I only did it like once or twice because I couldn't handle it anymore. But the point of it was to like make me be anxious and like
Yeah,
so to like sit
yeah,
with the anxiety and just like have the
yeah.
idea of like I'm sinning
Okay.
and I have to live with that. And I guess I'm just trying to see if
Well,
there's like other ways I can treat it besides doing so much extreme stuff.
let me say a couple of things about it. First of all, you know, it, generally speaking, when you talk about OCD, okay, what you're talking about in general is you're talking about an overactive, fear system in your brain, right? So
Yeah.
so it's telling you all the time that a bunch of stuff, well, forget that. It's telling you all the time that there's danger. That's what the fear
Yes.
response that comes out of your whole, amygdala world is it's overactivated for a lot of reasons, and it's creating physiological, real from your brain. It's creating a state of I'm in danger, and it's gloom and doom, right? And it's foreboding. That's what it's supposed to do. If I'm really in danger, if an earthquake or a train is about coming down the track and I'm in danger, I ought to be afraid, right? But there's a real reason for it. You follow me?
Yes.
Okay, so your brain as an organ, just like if you had a if you had a if you're a diabetic, your insulin levels would be off. Well, you've got some neurotransmitter stuff that's going on. So your brain is creating a state of anxiety that where the feeling is something bad is going to happen. That's the emotional state that you find yourself in. Now, what happens with OCD is somebody finds himself in that activated state, then they have to come up with a reason to explain that. It must be because I'm in danger of going to hell. It must be because I'm a sinner. It must be because God is mad at me. And so it's kind of backwards in that your brain creates this state of fear, then your mind has to make up a reason to justify why I feel this way. You follow me?
Yeah. Yes.
So you probably noticed in your experience how that happens. Like you feel afraid and oh my gosh, and then you start to worry, right?
Right.
Okay. So what exposure therapy does, and by the way, that is a for some people in some kinds of OCD, that is a very good, very acceptable, when you sort of take it as what it is, what we're doing is you're giving the brain a chance to learn that it's wrong. So
Right.
let's say that, forget sinning and writing bad words or whatever, but let's pretend for a moment that I've got it about germs. All right. So what they would
Okay.
do in your kind of exposure therapy is they would take a really bacteria filled rag and make you hold it, right? And
Right.
you would start getting really anxious, and then you'd have to hold it, you have to hold it, you'd have to hold it, you'd have to hold it. Well, after a long enough time of that, enough repetitions, your brain just kind of goes, okay, I quit, I give, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And then you get
Oh.
desensitized to it because it's winding down. You're squeezing all of the water out of the sponge, and the dirty rag remains after the fear is given up. So that's what they're doing. There's scientifically nothing wrong with that. There's nothing spiritually wrong with that. In fact, the Bible says that, it says when you're feeling afraid, what does it say? Fear not, keep going, right?
True. Yeah.
That's exposure therapy. Now, if writing a bad word on the page of the Bible that violates, it sounds like that one wasn't so much anxious as that hurts your heart,
So
right?
much.
Yeah. So you don't have to do that. You can do other things. But I
Yeah.
would, if the exposure therapy you said is really helping you, just find ways of doing it that, it's sort of, it doesn't violate anything spiritual for you, because there's nothing about exposure therapy that's unbiblical. I wouldn't worry about that at all.
I
At
guess
all.
that was kind of my main question was I guess like I didn't really know, like when I first started seeing a therapist, I was just so concerned with trying to get better that I guess I never really considered bringing in like any kind of spiritual aspect to it. And I think it wasn't until like after I did it, I was like, oh, I don't like that. Which I haven't done it since, but um, I guess I'm just trying to figure out like how to be respectful to God and still treat this disorder because I get very confused. And
Well,
so
you're
like I
gonna
have to,
you're
yeah,
gonna in part of it, you're gonna get confused because of the content that you have in your brain. Take away the writing on the Bible. You don't have to do that if you don't want to.
yeah,
But see, the very content of yours is the messages your anxiety is giving you. Number one, okay, you're a believer in Jesus, right?
yes,
Okay, so there are questionable things in the Bible. What I mean by that is things that we're not sure what it means. It's hard to interpret. But one of the
yes,
things that's not questionable at all in the Bible is one of my favorite verses, Romans 8:1, that applies to you. I bet you know the verse. What does it say?
um, I should probably know, but
Okay, if you don't know, I'll tell you.
I don't.
You've heard it. There is no condemnation for those
Oh, yes,
who are in Christ Jesus. In
right.
other words, and he said over and over and over, he who believes in me, or she who believes in me, is not condemned. You have been 100% forgiven. So any intrusive thought that comes to you that makes you feel bad or condemned, we know that's your OCD. You can just
Right.
you can trust that. So you got to treat that as there's that intrusive thought again. Okay. And probably what your therapy is also telling you is when it happens, you ignore it and you move on, and it's going to lose its power. So if your question is, does exposure therapy, is that okay? Yeah, it's fine. If you don't want to do certain techniques that, you know, violate your sensibilities, that's okay. That's good, in fact. But there's nothing wrong with the way of exposing ourselves to what we're afraid of so that it loses its power. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, another thing that I would do, and this is part of good standard treatment for anxiety disorders, is we dispute the irrational thoughts with some kind of truth, right? So
Right.
if I were you, I'd probably make a handful of, 3 or 4 little Bible verses and put them on 3x5 cards like the one that I just told you. And when
Mm,
this happens, just remind yourself of that and move on and go back about life. Because what we know
right.
about OCD is one of the most powerful formulas is when the intrusive thoughts come, you ignore them and you get re-engaged with the present moment of what you're doing. You go back to teaching your kids. and you treat it as noise in the background because it's just noise your brain is creating.
Right. And I guess like with teaching, I have to be very present, and like it's a very demanding job to be
Sure is.
everything to everybody else. And so I just, when my OCD gets in the way, I don't have time.
You don't have time.
But
You don't have time for your OCD, right?
but I seem to make time for it because
Yeah,
sometimes
don't
it
make time for it.
overwhelms me.
You're gonna ignore it like it's background noise. I've been talking to you, and they're trimming the trees in my yard today, and it's very loud up there.
Right.
I don't. Can you hear it? Do you hear the noise?
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay. It's been going like that all day, and I've been on conference calls all
Okay.
day, and it's been louder than that sometimes. Okay, that's OCD. The thoughts are kind of asking us, wait a minute, stop talking. Let's focus on them. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to ignore it, stay involved with the kids. And gradually,
Right.
just like in your exposure therapy, then it loses its power and loses its connection. So
Right.
I guess what I'm saying is, if your question is exposure therapy bad? No, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Some certain practices of it, might violate some things. So don't do those, but you can, generally, you know, embrace the fear not. I mean, that's what the scripture tells us.
Right.
Walk into and face our fears.
Right.
So is that helpful?
Yes, I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
You're very, very welcome. Are you on any kind of medicine? Sometimes
Um,
some kinds of, like
I
some
am.
SSRIs can be. What are you on?
So I just switched it. I'm on fluvoxamine. So I just started a lower dose about a month and a half ago, and I'm slowly going up. So I'm still getting it into my system. So I've kind of been going with that.
Okay. Well, so you're seeing a psychiatrist for this? Did I lose you?
She's still on.
Hello.
Oh, sorry. I hit the hold button. Yeah, I'm on.
Whoops. Sorry, I lost my connection here. I'm still looking for it. Are you there?
She just
Are you?
disconnected, Henry.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're still listening, generally speaking, the SSRIs can be very, very helpful for OCD. So I hope that's helpful for you. It's interesting. I think all of, not everybody, but so many people um, can identify uh, with what she was just talking about OCD in this way, that it's sort of like our previous caller. You have all this stuff that goes on in your head that there really has nothing to do with reality, but it's so powerful. And sometimes it comes from internal structures that are producing that. Sometimes it comes from internal organs that are producing that. It can be biochemical. But what it does is it calls us out of external reality into our own worlds. And then we begin to live inside of our own worlds. And we have a relationship with our anxiety more than we have a relationship being present in the real world. There's a lot of things that we can do. In fact, I would remind you, we're having a whole 2-hour live workshop on overcoming anxiety on December 9th. So for those of you who can identify with these kinds of anxiety issues, go to boundaries.me/anxiety, and you can sign up for our 2-hour workshop. But part of what happens with anxiety is people begin to slowly have a stronger relationship with their internal world, the unhealthy parts of their internal world, than they do the external world. With the previous caller about the attachment fears and abandonment fears, the messages that were going on inside of her became stronger than the ability to be present, with the external world in terms of just being on a date. And if you remember, what she did with her internal fears was, instead of what I was asking her to do, was to bring them to the external world. She would beat them up and devalue them, and that kept them locked in her head. So the takeaway here is, don't let your anxieties and all of that live in your head where that's the place you live. One sense, sometimes we got to ignore them and get back involved in the real world. Sometimes we have to embrace them and bring them to the external world. Okay. But in all of those examples, it's really important to be connected to external safety and good relationships that can help us to calm the anxiety down. And relationship and support and all that is a very, very, very important big part of overcoming all this. Okay, so let's go back to the phones here. We got time maybe for one more. Where is Stephen, who's calling us from Philadelphia, has a question, looks like, about boundaries and finances.
Oh.
Stephen, welcome to the program.
Welcome. Thanks for having me, Dr. Henry Cloud.
You're welcome.
So I got a few questions, and it's about guidelines and boundaries. And I just recently took the checkbook away from my wife, and what really helped me do was go ahead.
You said you took the checkbook away from your wife. Why?
Oh, because during the week, like, I would need to put gas in my truck, and I said, "Oh, you need put some gas in my truck. You know, I just want you to know that I'm going to take that money out of the check." And she says, "Well, there isn't any, so you figure it out." And I was like, "Really?" Well, I was like, "Well, I'm making a lot of money, so what's happening to the money?" And so, I was talking with my sponsor. I said, "There's money missing. There's ATM cash withdrawals. There's, a savings, and there's an emergency fund, but now she won't tell me where this money is." And, then I went to a marriage counselor, and about 20 minutes into the marriage counseling session, she said, "You got to take over the finances." I said, "Okay, I understand."
And your wife said what? And your wife said what? "Thank you, dear." Probably not, right?
It wasn't quite like that.
Didn't go quite like that.
I was so anxious about saying no. It was probably one of the most difficult things I've ever done in my life, because I want to make my wife happy, but I can't do it at the expense of losing our future. We have goals. I can't write off that, we were living in an apartment.
Stop.
Yep.
Do we have goals, or do you have goals?
Well, I believe that we have goals.
Okay, so she's bought into the goals.
She's bought into the goal, but she hasn't bought into the changes, when I'm talking about, "Oh, hey, let's make a budget and, put everything on the budget, and let's look at," she said, "Well, I know what I got." And I'm like, "Well, I don't, so help me understand." And
I don't know what that means. I know what I got. What does that mean?
Well, that means that's her answer to me when, she wants to go, as far as money goes. Her answer is, I know how much money we have. I'm in control of the money. You don't need to know anything. As a matter of fact, you don't, my previous husband spent and gambled all the money away, so I'm not going to let you control anything because I don't trust you." So that's what that means. That's my perception of it, at least.
Okay.
So,
all right. So
I'm like,
so what's it? We're a little out of time here, unfortunately. What is the question? I think I get the answer. By the way, you said that you have a sponsor. What is your sponsor for?
What is my sponsor for? Well,
Yeah.
my sponsor is I'm a choleric, so I have control issues. But I've given them up in order to work with my wife. Now, my marriage counselor is for my marriage because I want, and both of them are saying to me,
Right, but
take over.
but you said you had a sponsor, or is that from AA or NA or what is that?
Celebrate Recovery. Celebrate Recovery.
Okay, so
Yeah.
were you an
And
alcoholic? What
No.
was your addiction?
no, not that I have an addiction. Celebrate Recovery is not for addictions. It's for anybody who has an issue, whether it's eating or
No,
or
I
self.
understand that. I understand that. I was just trying to know what you meant by sponsor. Okay, so what is the question?
The question is, I'm struggling with some healthy guidelines as to what are some guidelines for I feel like I'm dealing with an addict here. They keep I need cash. There was an instance last week.
Yeah,
where she
what is
said
what is the question? I'm sorry, but I'm running out of time. What is the question?
Okay. The question is, when can I give her money and when can I not? Like, she called for dry cleaning. I said, okay, yeah, go get your clothes out.
No,
But when
no,
she
no, no,
calls,
no, 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 no. That's not the way I would do it. Okay. Here's what you
Okay.
have to do. Here's what I think you have to do. Okay.
Okay.
You come together, maybe with your marriage counselor, you come together and like you said, okay, we need an agreement. Okay. We have a budget. All right. And we are going to have mutually agreed upon expectations of this budget. Now, very important point here. Mutually agreed upon expectations.
okay, I
Now,
can't get her in front of a counselor right now.
You what?
I cannot get her in front of a marriage counselor right now.
Who can you get her in front of? Can you get her in front of a smart accountant? Can you get her in front of a pastor? Can you get her in front of who can you meet with her?
I'm struggling with all of that. I can't, seem to get her, I did get her in front of a pastor, but I'm afraid that the pastor was focusing on the wrong issue. I said, you got to be nice to her. You got to, say yes. You got to do this. I said,
okay, stop. Stop.
Okay.
Whether you get her in front of any, I'd like for you to get her in front of me. The way I would get her in front of anybody is say, look, you don't have access to any money until we sit down and talk to somebody. Okay, that's how I would do it. If you're asking that you have control of the money, and you're giving it to her and giving it to her and giving it to her, and you say she's going to spin you guys into bankruptcy. Well, why would you keep funding bankruptcy? Okay, so
well,
what I would say is this. This is the way that I think it works best. Okay. We get an agreement that this is our money, okay? And there is a we portion of this money that we need for the mortgage or the rent or the, whatever it is we have. And this is a we portion that we have. All right. Then there are certain things that she's going to be responsible for. And one check goes to that, all of that. And then she has control of that and you don't interfere with it. See, when you're doing dry cleaning, can I have the dry cleaning? Can I have this? Okay. No, you don't want to get involved in all those line items. Y'all agree that one amount that she gets for the month, and she gets to use that and pay all that in any way she wants to. One amount that you get in the month to do your deals, and one amount that we get. And you get out of the line by line kind of, I'm going to argue every time you ask for something, because this could go to limitless sorts of, there's no end to that. And what couples have to do is they got to say, we are in this together. This is our money. We're going to agree that this is what we spend collectively. And then there's your part that you can control. There's my part that I can control. And we don't interfere with the individual parts of it, and you have total freedom. But you don't have access as an individual to spending our agreed upon money. That's just what we can't do. So Having said that, I would hope that you can use some kind of, just leverage and say, I can't go further in this, until we have an agreement. And so we have to go talk to somebody. And or your other option is you just, let her spend it into oblivion, which that isn't a great option either. Now, sometimes this gets very adversarial, and I would do everything to try to head it off at the pass to say, look, I love you. I want to be a partner here. I want to work as a team. But I can't work as a team if you're doing all this stuff individually off in your own life and spending our money unilaterally. That doesn't work. You can't do a relationship like that. And so, in answer to your question, that's kind of how I would approach it. Every relationship has however many people there are in it plus one stakeholder. Right? If you're in a marriage, there's two people. So there's two stakeholders, but there's a third stakeholder that sits above the two, and that's the relationship. So the relationship has to get fed what it needs first: time, money, resources, energy, that we turn and we bend our individual knee to this transcendent, much bigger, important thing called our marriage that's more important than my individual needs. Don't write me a bunch of letters and say, don't be codependent to somebody. No, that's not what I'm talking about. Of course, if somebody's hurting you, you have needs to not be hurt and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm talking about is the expenditure of time and energy and resources. And we have to get what we need first. And then we have the individual needs as well. And you're going to have a problem in any relationship if any one of those three stakeholders is not getting what they need. So if the individuals are spending everything and all their time and all their energy just pursuing their individual wishes, you're not going to have much of a marriage. Okay? But if everything is about the we, then you're going to have undeveloped individuals as well. And so it's really, really important that couples sit down and figure out, let's commit to what we need, what you need, what I need, and then let's live by that. And let's have some form of measuring that and staying accountable to each other for it. Okay, I hope that's helpful to you. Sorry we ran out of time there. There's never enough time with you guys. We need more. Maybe one day we'll do a 100-hour show. How about that? We have a marathon, okay? But until then, we are going to have a 2-hour one. That's the anxiety event that's coming up on December 9th. If you struggle with any kind of anxiety, we're going to have an online workshop, Overcoming Anxiety. Me and you right here online for 2 hours, December 9th. You can sign up by going to boundaries.me/anxiety. And if you can't make it for those 2 hours, it's fine. You sign up for the event anyway, and you can stream it afterwards, just like you were there. Except you won't have the interaction, but that's fine. You get to see it. Anxiety, boundaries.me/anxiety, boundaries.me/anxiety. And then the rest of you, go sign up for boundaries.me. Come join us. We're having a great time there. There's a lot to learn. Boundaries.me. Okay, good to be with you guys, and I hope you have a great weekend. And things turn out like you would like them. Who knows how they turn out. Anyway, I'm on your side. I vote for you. All righty. See you guys on Monday. Have a good weekend.